The Last of Us, on its surface, is just another zombie game. They don't call them zombies, they call them clickers. There's a fungal disease that takes over your brain and makes you aggressive. But like I said, that's on the surface. At its core, this isn't really another zombie game. It's a game about people, a game that focuses on emotions and relationships, a story of anger and resentment, and at times selfishness, but also of hope and love. It really doesn't pull its punches, it goes right for the gut when it comes to emotions. And it's the kind of game that leaves you thinking. As complex characters with their own emotions and their own arcs, you can't help but get invested in their stories. Now, unlike Life is Strange, which I reviewed before, this game doesn't have a branching narrative with choices. Now, I love branching narratives. I purposely seek out games that give me a choice so that I can feel impacted emotionally by that experience. I made the choice, and therefore I caused the thing to happen. However, despite that, this game still hits hard. And it does so not just because of the great writing itself and the great characters, but because you are forced to do terrible things due to the characters' decisions. Note that forced is in quotation marks here because no one is really forcing you to play the game. If you are playing the game and you want to finish it, you are going to have to do things that you probably don't agree with, that perhaps you even feel guilty about. And that has its own emotional impact. Side note here, I will say that The Last of Us Part 2 does this quite a bit, but I won't go into that. I have a separate video coming out on the topic. I also like that the dialogue in this game really comes from the heart. It's so full of emotion, untethered by the social norms because this isn't the world we live in. This is a world that has been torn apart by a terrible, life changing disease, by military takeover, by people taking advantage of the situation and manipulating others. And we see a lot of that in post apocalyptic situations. Whatever the actual part of the apocalypse is, whether it's zombies, some other terrible disease, something to do with plant life, aliens, whatever the case may be, we see that mankind becomes the greatest threat in those situations. We see that in this game with the way that the military behaves, the gang violence, cannibals, the kind of stuff we like to pretend doesn't exist, because it's so deeply in the underbelly of society that we can turn a blind eye. But the dialogue, because it doesn't have to be reined in by social norms, the norms that you and I experience on a regular day, at school, at work, at your local grocery store, it's very raw, and it feels so much more real. The story starts with Joel, one of the main characters, and the character that you're going to be playing as the majority of the game. There is a section where you play as Ellie, the other main character, but primarily you will be playing as Joel. Joel is a very rough, cold, closed off older man, somewhere in his 50s at this point. He has a reason for it. He experienced a terrible loss when the apocalypse was rising to its peak. Ellie, the other main character, starts off as your typical snarky teen. She's got an attitude on her. But over time, she begins to show vulnerability as her relationship with Joel changes, grows, and matures. You start to see her more for the fun, goofy personality she has, which is very special because that personality has endured this terrible world that she's been brought up into. You will see over time that Joel's behavior towards her will change too. He grows very attached to her, taking her in as his own daughter. It is a healing process for him. There are a lot of other characters that they will interact with along the way. None of them will stick around as long as Joel and Ellie, but there are other characters that have their own personalities and their own motivations, and they will help drive the plot forward. Bill, for example, is very bitter, paranoid, and closed off, but he knows Joel, and he owes Joel a favor. Joel and Ellie end up getting some help from him to continue their journey. The game briefly touches upon the subject of lost love. They give us a message that when the world is ending and we're losing people we love, it all hurts equally. It impacts everyone, no matter who they had that relationship with. We find out more about Ellie's orientation in the DLC Left Behind. She had someone once, another girl, that she really cared about. This game is a journey of self-discovery for Ellie and a journey of healing for Joel. But in the minds of Joel and Ellie, it is their journey of redemption. Joel loses his daughter, and it's something that tortures him throughout his life, something that changes him as a person. And when Ellie comes into his life, he's very hesitant at first. He doesn't want to get attached to anyone again because that hurts too much. But over time, he can't help himself. He comes to care for Ellie. And this is an opportunity for him to make up for the loss of his daughter, or so he believes. He needs to redeem himself in his own eyes. For Ellie, it's about the friend she lost. Just like Joel, it's not her fault what happened, but in her eyes, she needs to do something that's going to make up for that. And there's a chance that she can do something big, really big, maybe even save the world. That is a super critical piece of this game, the fact that she might be the missing link. I will say without telling you what happens that the ending is absolutely gut wrenching, and it takes a long time to process. I had to sit for so long while those credits rolled, and yet it was perfect. It was the perfect example of less is more. I cannot think of another example where I've had something end, movie, a TV show, a game, a book, with just absolute simplicity, but also an emotional gut punch. It's just that good, and you have to see it for yourself. If you're enjoying these game reviews, please give the video a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. We're almost at 500, and thanks for watching.